I still stand by that now is the best time to be into watches, whether you're collecting or purchasing, experiencing, however you want to call it. You know, the quote name brands or the luxury brands, entry or otherwise, Swiss made, Japanese, or, you know, the budget brands, whatever you want to do. Like there's endless options out there, and it's really to the advantage of the enthusiasts, the people that are buying the watches, you and I. So Monarte is offering, they say it right here, it's in their kind of motto, if you will, complexity crafted elegantly simple. So, and I'm going to try to demonstrate that for you, but I wanted to show you the box that they come in because it's the first thing you see before you open it, and you're getting a pretty higher level of experience when you're purchasing, you know, if you want to call it a micro brand or a boutique brand or whatever you want to call. It's not just a cardboard box or a leather pouch or something like that. And then the experience continues on. The closer you look with this watch, the more finer detail, and even beyond the finer detail, the absence of like quality control issues, which, you know, with certain watches and certain price points, you just kind of expect a little bit here and there. But when you start to spend more, your expectations of the quality of the product, you know, ramp up pretty quick, and these guys deliver. So first off, let's cover the dimensions as I typically do, and then I'll try to do some close-ups for you because that's really where this watch shines. Not only, but clearly it's a great looking watch, but like the closer you look, like it's there, it's good. So I'm going to give you a couple measurements of the case because oftentimes with diver watches, the bezel overhangs the case. That's not what's happening here. So case, I measure from here to here at 42 millimeter. Depends on how you measure it. It's basically 42 millimeter, okay, without the crown guards. Now, if you measure just the bezel, it's 40.5 millimeter. And I do get asked sometimes email messages or just in the comment section, where do I get these measurements from? Because they sometimes will not be the same measurements or specs that the watch manufacturer posts on their website. So there might be some deviation in that, but the reality is I literally measure and document more than once. I'll measure a couple times every single watch that I handle. So when I'm giving you these measurements, these are the measurements that I collected with my measuring device. So, okay, lug to lug, 47 millimeter, and you can see the way the bracelet interacts with the case. It doesn't extend that, so it instantly drops off. So that 47 is going to really help if you have a little bit smaller wrist. You're still going to be able to wear this. You know, like I said, it's 42 millimeter, but it doesn't really wear like and look like a 42 millimeter. It's kind of more like a 41 and a half. Yeah, because we're watch enthusiasts, and that 0.5 millimeter or 1 millimeter actually matters to us. So I like to mention that. So don't be intimidated by the size of this thing. Now the thickness, or thinness rather, is another shining point of this. I measured at 11.6 millimeter. So you have a flat sapphire crystal, sits just proud of that metal bezel insert. So slight chamfer to it, and it's flat. So 20 millimeter lug opening, so that's perfect. So you can swap this out, put whatever you want on there, no problem. It's going to be fairly universal. The bracelet does taper down to 18, and the bracelet is also a really good point of this watch in the sense that you don't really want, I think for me, I don't want my bracelet to outshine my watch, but I just want a really good bracelet. It should just be there and be a good bracelet. It doesn't need to do a whole lot more than that, and that's what's happening here. So it's brushed, you know, it's unique. It's not a design pulled from really anywhere else. And then also those center links, you can see they sit, you know, where they reveal in between, they have a nice polished bevel edge. So you don't have to worry about the scratching of a polished center link, but you still get that separation. You get that little bit of polishing still on the bracelet, just adding a little bit. The hardware on it is very well done screws, and get this, it's done so it's on both sides. So you'll have, on one side, you'll be able to pull like a little mini screw out, and then you can just push the link out the other way. But Sometimes you're going to have to use a screwdriver on each side, and there's special tools for doing that too. So if you're not familiar with sizing this, you may want to have a watchmaker size it, but it's really not that difficult. And then the clasp, again, very simple, double post, double pusher, and then it has the toolless on the fly quick micro adjust. So very easy to operate and get a dialed in size. You have quick release spring bars on the bracelet as well, to remove, clean, or just swap out. And then you have, on these models, the non-limited edition models, you have these very ornate case backs. Now this watch model is called the Squid, so it looks like we have a squid wearing a top hat, which is awesome. I mean, yeah, top hats are just cool. And if you put on a squid, it's also cool. So there is a limited edition model variant they have, which will give you a sapphire display case back, and they have an 18 karat gold plated rotor with that one, so it's pretty cool. The only other measurement I didn't mention, oh, that the bracelet tapers down to 18, and then we have a screw down signed crown that is 7.5 millimeter. You can see it's a really good size, kind of pushes up into the bezel area a little bit. And then check out the traction that's on the crown. Have never seen that done. It's not a ton of traction. It's almost smooth, but because of the size of it, it's easy to operate. It's not an issue. I would rather see something unique like that done to it versus, you know, the simple knurling. They could have just done that on the crown, but I like that it's, you know, it's different. So I like it. The bezel has a nice knurling to it, so it's easy to operate, and it is 120 click. It's very smooth and consistent all the way around. There's zero play, and there's zero play, not even like a backlash to settle in. There's zero play, so no problems there. The movement inside is actually a top grade ETA 2824. The first time I undid the crown, had a nice pop to it, and I started to wind it. I was expecting, and again, this is watch nerd talk, but like, I can tell when I'm winding a Sellita SW200. The rotor wants to move a little bit. It's just the way the winding mechanism works on it. And I didn't get that with this movement. So I instantly went over the page. I usually check out a watch before I go look up the specs, because I just want to experience it and not be, you know, conditioned to expect certain things from it. I want to have that happen on my own. And I noticed that, you know, so I'm glad they went with the top grade ETA 2824. It's just a more refined movement. In fact, they regulate it to 6 positions, plus minus 2 seconds. So super accurate. Well done. Good choice. 72-hour power reserve of that movement as well. And the whole watch has a 5-year warranty, which is kind of a longer warranty in this segment for sure. So the reason I need to make sure you guys are aware of everything that's happening with this watch, like I mentioned before, is the price point. The price point, depending on how you configure it, is going to range anywhere from roughly to that $1,000 mark all the way up to $1,400. And I think that's a really good space to operate with what they've brought to the table here, because typically all the watches I see, the micro brands, if you will, that are pushing to that higher level, they're in the $2,000 segment. This one's below that. It seems like there's that gap, and they're like right in that middle, because there's a bunch of watches in there that are around that $1,000 mark and maybe touch below that are, you know, nearly at the level. So like it's those, some might call it diminishing returns, but if you think of it the other way around, it's more of like it's easy to kind of go that 90% where you get almost everything dialed in. It's that last 10% that cost a lot of money, and that's how you end up with luxury watches that cost $4, $5, $10, whatever $1,000. So they're really blurring that line where they're punching above their weight. A lot of brands, this one for sure, but the dial is absolutely amazing. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to capture it, but there's one ring in there. You can kind of see there's actually words. There you go. There's some script going all the way around there. So again, you might have to get your loop or something like that, but you can go around and read that. I got a little bit of fuzz there. Part of the reason why I don't go super close with a lot of these watches, because you might not want to see what's going on in there, but really nice done handset. Check out the way they did the hands. I have not seen those done that way, where they laid the loom. That is just so dang cool. I mean, it looks like some sort of like blade or something. And then the applied markers, the way they're shaped and chamfered, they're just beautiful. They're done right. And then You have a nice framed date window, of course. The font for the Swiss made is really cool. The applied logo for their branding, if I can catch the light just right, you can see the brushing on it even. It's just a really cool watch. It's like I said, it's one of those ones. The closer you look, the more impressed you'll be. And that's not always the case when you guys are buying watches, which is fine, because I was just having this conversation. I was at a watch show. For a lot of these watches, you know, like some people want me to do macro, but I'm like, macro's fun and it's cool to look at on a video and stuff like that, but we don't live our life in macro. Like when you look down at your wrist, if you know you have a really good quality watch, then you know it, you know, but you still don't see it in macro, and you don't, you know, go home and bust out the loop and, well, I don't know, maybe some of us do, but you know what I'm saying. So let's pop this on my 7 1/4 inch wrist so you can see what that looks like. You can see it's a great size. It's a Goldilocks size. So, you know, like I said, I measured at 42, but it just doesn't wear like that. It's more like a 41.5 by 47. And you have color options. This one's black. This is the safe one. But even the other tones, the blue and the green, are still completely safe. They're not like bold or, you know, upsetting some sort of balance or anything. They're still safe colors. So those are your really good color options. Has a nice weight to it. Very comfortable. And just a great watch. So if you're shopping in this price segment and you want something that is, again, we often try to find the best value for each price point. So, and it depends on how you define value, but this one has to be considered in that price point. When you start touching that $1,000 price point, as long as you're fine with going with a lesser known brand, you're just getting more for your money because they're not having to sell you the brand too, if that makes sense. So let me give it a quick blast with the UV light. The lume application on this is awesome, partly because of the way they applied the lume to the handset. It's just fun. So let me know what you guys think about this. I know when I looked it up real quick, there are some other YouTube channels posted videos on this brand and this watch. I think roughly around 11 months ago, they must have did a launch or something like that. So this is as far as I know, this is a production model. This is not a pre-production model. So big thanks for the brand for sending this over for me to check it out and share it with you guys, because I think it's always good to consider our options. And this is definitely a really good option. I'll see you guys in the next vid.